Hello, this is Twilight Prepper again. I'm sure everybody's going to be going on about some stuff here eventually, but just to let everybody know, it's well, I watched the Trump situation and there's been some other things unfolding. Had a death in the family, obscure, massive heart attack, and total body shutdown. Guy just about 54 years of age. Stuff happens, gotta say it. Just going on with that and everything else with recent things. Haven't been posting on here, haven't been anything, so gonna have to catch up with the news really quickly and everything else. Other than like the cool stuff with like it being basically, planting time for a lot of things, some other things like that. Getting some things moving and doing and everything else. Going to try to be getting back into shape, try to get some of that other stuff done, and who knows? Maybe I'll try shaving the head since it's just not coming back. Um, saw the Zelenskyy thing basically the day when everything started happening. Um, saw a little meme where it's they had the little super mini Zelenskyy and they're picking him up, throwing him around, and taking their shoes off and making him lick the dog crap off of his shoes, everything else, and all of this. And I'm going, if woke culture really isn't, it's like you can't kill woke culture that quickly and then go everything's going to be super masculine. It's like, wake up, I'm a man. Eventually a small man's going to come around and do something and jerk you around. Now while I go, okay, Zelenskyy and Trump are playing this super tough because they've kicked people out before and they don't have a press conference afterwards. So Zelensky's in on this, and they're going to be getting Europe to pay their fair share. They're going to have Europe be beat down. They're probably going to bring in China or somebody as like peacekeepers. And lo and behold, today I watched the news and saw they're thinking about Chinese peacekeepers over in this one area. Interesting. I will say that there is a map on YouTube that is very helpful with explaining all this, and it was looked up by a Canadian prepper. I will say I have my cell phone here, and I have some wonderful little pictures to show, and while I'm saying here directly, I am not trying to rip him off in any way, shape, or form. I am just trying to show this here, and yeah, every time I try taking a picture of it, his eyes are closed. But as he circled out where Russia maintains everything, and supposedly this all started with something over there, and someone's complaining about me because I went over there in the rubble and saw stuff happening, and saw some stuff, and made a little comment, and everything else. But just in looking at this, here is him. Get a good close up there of it. See the map of Ukraine, where all the dark areas are with all the rare earth minerals. I mean, it's not like we're going to be getting mercury to put in people's water like the Mussolinis do around here, still holding out for World War II to make us all stupid, fat, and look like them. Anyway, with it, in that area there is also the Sea of Azov, where the British want to put 4 forts, and due to the fact of our alliedship with NATO, we could move the Corps of Engineers in there with everything. Corps of Engineers, actually how it's been restructured after the war and everything else, can have every single thing with them and be a full armaments and make a new division past the SEAL teams. This is very interesting with it. And while people will look at me and say, oh, Colin, you're just kind of crazy, it's like, no, it actually was set up like that. And this Sea of Azov here, right at that area, they want 4 bases, like the USA was going to make beachheads with the Corps of Engineers, and go in there and do it all. Basically break out the USA's super ultra preppers and make a new division of everything. And we would not in any way be obligated to take that as like raw earth, which it's like there was a purposeful and saying rare earth instead of saying it. He said raw earth. So I think Zelenskyy and them are playing things against Europe by making them stand up and say stuff. Now, this is another huge situation on this that goes into it, because the Syrian war, Al-Qaeda has left Central Asia and gone to this conglomerate of Holy Roman Empiricals trying to take back by basically squatting there and taking over some of the governments and making slight changes, like the 3 stars on the flag. That goes all the way back to biblical times of Jesus in his 20s. That's not really talked about. And then the supposedness that Jesus survived the cross and went there with Bartholomew and would randomly go back and reset up Byzantium for that which is his chosen women, believing that he had children, survived the cross by getting Judas the Iscariot to put on this one Judas that looked like him, because there's 2 or 3 Judases. There's Judas the Zealot, who recruits these people, and Judas the Iscariot, who handles anything with getting past stuff. Since the flag of Syria is now 3 stars and showing the Third Reich of Crusaders, and taking Al-Qaeda there and making an Al-Qaeda government, while this may not be totally situations with the USA, there is enough legal legislation that we cannot go there on that unless we have something of economic interest in the area, like taking over the Gaza Strip or so on, etc., that could threaten Israel, and thus us being always eternally leased with Israel and standing with them. This in turn has led to the Second Reich, the Conquestual Reich, the Reich of exploration, everything else, leaving and taking asylum in with Putin. This will inevitably lead to, while they may take a lot from Ukraine and kind of dominate it, and maybe some areas of Czechoslovakia that are mineral rich, now it's broken up into 2 separate republics and democracies, Slovakia, and the Czech Republic. I'm just saying there will be enough for them to take out that they will just kind of open pit mining, scrape it out of there, drag it back, and then throw it into Russia. With that being said, they will then turn with some of their investors and become allied with a group somewhere in the kind of gray zone of mystical eastward conquest. And they will continue this out throughout there and possibly even threaten China. If they join with the Taliban and some of them in a reformulated government after that and reintroduce certain things of clairvoyant cannibalism and other things, they will then move onward. The fact of North Korean soldiers being used, I'm not really so convinced with that, since the majority of Russia's population, once you go past the Urals, really does look and is from ethnic groups that would be associated with the Koreans. And once this happens, they are so closely allied to or related to Native Americans that it's going to be very hard to tell anything without a 64 DNA test. There's actually been threats from the Mussolini groups here that they will force an issue that will have to make this happen. So then they can therefore have their churches that are loyal to them under Jesus Christ in the USA go out and take every single thing and show and have their DNA churches set up for later genetic cleansing. Even though Israel has broken everything with the Native Americans in the Americas out there for it, and people keep going, no, we still are this, they keep getting marginalized out from the government. This is one of those weird things that even though the Native Americans made the original government, constitution, and everything else, freed everybody under freedom of religion for slavery and everything, basically you have the same thing happening as, they're not really with the military because they're not in a uniform like Russia, going in and squatting in eastern Ukraine. Now they're basically squatting all over the Dnipro River and causing some mayhem and chaos. And then the other ones that are like super goody two-shoes will just take over running the police department there and everything else. And kind of like how they do in numerous places in the USA. And then it'll just slowly be taken over all the way to Romania. Because everybody's speaking Russian, the Ukrainians are extinct. It's not the fact that you live in a geographic area. That being said, I'm probably going to jail now. Because that's not how most of everybody looks at it in most of the world as we look at it. And what we've been taught in schools in the USA. Now, I'm going to go on and show this really bad political punditry cartoon in this next one that I'm going to do. Now, I'm going to leave this one short and sweet and just be like, yeah, I know there's been a lot of other stuff, and end it with, in the meeting, I have never seen so many woke straight men that's like, you really thought that I wasn't straight. Every one of those people have been accused of doing homosexuality, from Trump with Putin on down to Rubio and everything else, and they brought in their little gay midget. Not trying to be insulting here, but let's just say what people have been saying, because it's even making big news on CNN and Fox News with Marco Rubio, and I'm going, yeah. Next it'll come out in the last 2 years or whatever it is that he sleeps with his daughters, because he's a rare Jewish Hasidic group from wherever it is that will come up, and we'll have like major more anti-Semitism, into Trump riots, because, we got a riot because he can't come back, or whoever it is. Not saying I'm planning this, but, you see how it's going. I'm trying to be like, we're all American, and it's like the Supreme Court really ain't kicking some people out, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, moving right along with this, I'm just looking at it going, and then there was like, all of a sudden I saw a Disney cartoon right before things really devolved, and it's like this one eunuch person from like a Disney cartoon, and some of these cartoons that are coming up, and I know I'm going to get it for knocking African culture, but see, woke is all Disney. It's all Disney. Disney's in control of everything. It's the evil corporation of all. And yeah, they can even come back after African people, and it's like, oh, it's not racist. But if you point it out, it's like, you're being kind of racist to people and saying that there needs to be black castrated men here in the USA. I'm just going, no, I'm 20% to 15%, however the DNA goes back, and they won't declassify my DNA from the Pacific so much. So I'm probably got a little bit more than that. So all you 1 to 3%ers on it, I know you're like going, Colin, you're claiming that Viking. It's like, dude, they gave it to me. I can go over the Appalachian Trail and how they come through the St. Lawrence Seaway. But anyway, going on about everything with the insanity of it, I was like, oh my God, it's just a bunch of kiss-ass eunuchs that are egging this thing on and know how to use the guys who still have their nuts testosterone against them. And I'm just going from one way to another, and like the closest one was like, Zelenskyy coming, and they're like, oh, it's his interpreter. And then it's like, it's just going, but, maybe it's all staged and somehow else. And, they're looking at this and going, Democratic Republic of Congo wasn't too nice to us here recently. Said something mean about the president. So, even if it's not their party, they got to be like, gotta make the presidency look good. But at the end of it, I'm just going, I went from like the gay, everyone's gay trying to be with Gaston thing, and Biden doesn't. We're not going to. You will learn to hate. Yeah. Right. Sorry, folks. We had a little bit of a apparent power failure, but it was okay. For some reason it's still running. Anyway, I put my foot further in my mouth, and I don't have any editing software on this yet, so here we go. I was transported back there, and it's like, Biden was like, everyone's really like, oh, he's so gay because he sniffs hair, and that's like my cue with my girlfriends before I'm out to say oh yeah. And there it is. That's basically the last I was going to say over it. I'm sorry you had to wait for so long for that, but I had to run upstairs and try and find the power cord, and luckily it's still recording. Anyway, here late at night and everything else, and hopefully I'll be able to show some better videos here with the garden and reorganizing it whenever it's like, well, I went in there and just planted what I could buy at the thing and had to put in what we got. And we'll be making it to where everything's got its own path of sunrise and everything else, and height and all that. Anyway, this is Twilight Prepper signing off with that, because I know I'll put my foot in my mouth more. And going over to something else.